Good morning and welcome to Woodstock, Illinois. For those of you that are tuning in live, it is Tuesday morning and we're having a beautiful day here on the Woodstock Square. Thanks to the state of Illinois and the McHenry County CBB for arranging this for us. We want to show you around Woodstock. This is a community we love. We have one kind of unique thing about Woodstock was that we were the filming location for the Groundhog Day movie. So we're going to show you a bunch of filming locations. Yep, there's the bell tower. It's 11 o'clock. So we're starting here at the Woodstock Opera House. Let's walk this way and we can get a better view of it. But the Opera House was built in 1889. It was actually City Hall when it first opened, as well as the library, the fire station, and police station. Today it still operates as an opera house, continuously operating ever since the 1800s, the late 1880s. We hold a variety of concerts and events. There's two local theater companies that do local theater in here. It's a lot of fun. So that's one of our main events here in the square. But overall, Woodstock's just a fun, creative place. We have a lot of music, a lot of entertainment going on. You'll see around the background that today is also Farmers Market Day. We have farmers markets every day, every Tuesday and Saturday here on the square. We even have those in the winter time. They do move inside the fairgrounds, indoors. But, every Tuesday and Saturday come out to Woodstock for farmers market. I wanted to point out really quickly before we head into the park, this is our Woodstock Visitor Center, just half a block away from the Opera House, really easy to find. So next time you come to Woodstock, stop in here first. Get a little information about Woodstock and what's going on this week or this weekend in Woodstock, Illinois. We're right on the Union Pacific Northwest line, coming in from Chicago. Really easy to find, really easy to get to. So let's head into the Woodstock Square. This is the exact geographic center of McHenry County. The city was founded back in the 1840s as the actual new county seat for McHenry County when it split off of Lake County, or when Lake County split off of us, I guess. But you'll recognize this as Gobbler's Knob from the Woodstock, from the Groundhog Day movie, where you see these families over here picnicking. That was where the actual platform was, where the groundhog, comes out and sees his shadow, and they do all that filming location. This side over here is where Rita and Phil had their snowball fight in the snow. We do get a beautiful, wonderful, beautiful snow around here in the winter time, but not today. We'll wait a couple more months for that. You see the guys up here on the gazebo. We have live music out here quite a bit. Whenever we don't have live music, we have other music being piped into the square from the gazebo there. So it's a lot of fun. Woodstock's just a great community, small town. Kind of vibe, but still have the big town amenities. We're close to Chicago, but we've got all the community feel and creativity of a wonderful small town. We have a lot of loyal fans that love to come out and see Woodstock and enjoy the sights. We have Groundhog Days, but we also have a lot of other festivals throughout the year. We just wrapped up Summer in the Park, a week-long festival, ending with the Gaber's Barn Dance. So a lot of fun out here. I wanted to point out really quickly before we leave the square, these brick streets you see out here. Come on through, ladies. These brick streets out here, those were placed in 1912, and they've been there ever since. So we have a lot of old historic pictures of the square before the streets were put in, and we know the date on those because they were prior to 1912. But if you head into the square, all of this paving that was done here, all that was actually paid for by Columbia Pictures right after the Groundhog Day movie was made. They basically tore up the whole square. With all the filming and all the stuff going on, they put straw down to keep the mud out, and they really tore the place up. So all this was restored by the movie company, Columbia, right after the movie was filmed. And a lot of the trees you see here also date from the restoration work that they did after they left. So these trees are almost exactly 25 years old, and the brick pavers here also date from exactly when that movie was done. Do you have a question?
town, is the town often confused as a music festival, Woodstock?
Yeah, we get that a lot. Yeah, Woodstock, New York has that kind of a vibe of the hippies and the music festival, but I don't think it's a poor comparison, actually, because we do have a lot of music going on here as well. We pride ourselves as being a great music venue, and we just have a lot of the same kind of creative folks that live here. Groundhog Day, and again, this is right in front of us is the Tip Top Cafe, where Phil and Rita sit and have their breakfast each day. And then right outside here, we'll come back to this spot around the corner here, but this is where that little plaque right here. Right here is where Phil steps off the curb, and he steps into the ice. You know, so he steps right off here into the curb. So a lot of people ask for that spot. So that was one of the first plaques that was put down after the movie. It's every Tuesdays, of course, with this, but most weekends we'll have some live music out there as well, whether indoors or out. There's the Stage Left Cafe that's right next to the Opera House. They just do open mic nights and jazz nights where people can come in and participate, as well as inside the Opera House, of course. There's quite a bit of music going on in there all the time. Several movies have been filmed here. One was let's go back up here while we talk about that. One of the first ones was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was here, and the site locator guy, the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles used the courthouse up there, just a little bit. And then the same guy that was the site locator was in charge of Groundhog Day as well. And they had considered 60 different sites throughout Chicagoland. They wanted to pick Chicago because Harold Ramis lived in Chicago and Bill Murray lived in Chicago. You know, the director and the main star. So they wanted to do a movie where they could both be home and not have to, you know, be away from their families. So they wanted Chicago. They looked at 60 different sites. We were already on the short list to begin with, but they were looking for, you know, everything, looking for the best. But they came out here. Harold Ramis came into the City Opera House. The director took him up to the top of the tower and showed him the square from the top of the tower. And he turned to the site locator guy and said, "This is it. Let's make this one work." So he loved the square first time he saw it. So they came in. They filmed in the spring of 1992 the Groundhog Day movie. So this one right here with Phil Connors here, Bill Murray. So this coming year, the spring of 2017, will be 25 years since the movie was filmed here in Woodstock. But it's still something that kind of puts us on the map. A lot of people still come every year. Hundreds of people come every year to watch the movie with us here and tour the sites. One of our best partners in that is the Woodstock Theater here. It was actually featured in the movie as the Alpine Theater, but they are an excellent, fun community partner every year when we do the Groundhog Days. They put on both the Saturday and Sunday of Groundhog Day weekend. This coming year in 17, it will be on a Thursday, so Groundhog Days will be immediately following Groundhog Day rather than leading up to it. Last year it was on Saturday, so it was the whole weekend, or it was Tuesday, so it was the weekend before. But this year it'll be leading up, it'll be afterwards instead of before. But this movie theater, they dedicate basically all of the screens for people to just come in and watch the movie for free. 10 o'clock both Saturday and Sunday mornings of that weekend after Groundhog Day. So it's a lot of fun. And this is a cool restoration project, just to talk about the community for a sec. The old part you see there, where the actual marquee is, that was a 1922 theater called the Miller Theater. And it was a fairly small downtown theater. And rather than, like most communities have done, rather than abandon your old theater and build a Cineplex on the outside of town, they actually worked with the city, and we bought the next several buildings over, which were, they were not very historic. They were, you know, this side over here is more historic than that, but some of it was a big city parking lot. They tore that all down and built all that on there. So the next four buildings you see there are actually more of the theater. So it looks like a facade of a bunch of buildings, but it's really an 8-screen modern movie Cineplex right in the middle of downtown, which is great. What community can say that they have that? All brand new stuff. Another question?
Yeah. Can you tell us what's new in the square, shops and restaurants?
Sure, we've actually had, we're here right here. G4 Guitar School is one. We've had a dozen new businesses open in the last year. A couple restaurants. We have the Brickstone restaurant that we can see right across the street there. That's a great one. We've got the Burseth Farms. You know, they do goat milk creams and lotions and soaps. That's fun. DNA Hair Salon is a new, just opened a couple weeks ago. Sunshine Girl, it's a new ladies dress boutique. There's EMH, Ignite Woodstock, which is a kind of a creative writing incubator where they'll help people develop scripts for movies and TV shows. Kind of a fun, creative business. The Woodstock Wedding Network right over here. So all these have opened within the last year. So yeah, things are really hopping here in Woodstock right now. It's great. So right ahead of us is the train station. Kind of a funny thing for the movie was that the train station, the directors for the movie really tried to avoid having the train station in any of the shots because, you know, as you know, the plot, Phil is kind of stuck in Punxsutawney and he can't get out. And if he had a passenger train station, then that would have given him a pretty easy out to get out of town. So they made sure not to put that in there. We're going to round this corner really quick. A couple quick scenes is the gas station. That's where he goes in and tries to call back to Pittsburgh and see if he can get a ride out of town. Again, the train station wasn't in the movie, but it's a great spot for entry into Woodstock if you want to come out here on the train line. It's the Northwest line out of the Ogilvy with the Metro here in Chicago. It was first started in the 1840s, so well over 150s, 170-ish years old now. So we're pretty historic around here. When we go back into the square, I'll tell you a few more things about it. A few things that we can see from here. The Moose Lodge over there was where they have the big dance at the end, where they have the auction for the men, and Rita buys Phil at the auction. That's a fun scene. And then right here, the bowling alley. That's another one of my favorite scenes, where Phil's talking with his new friends about, his friends kind of says he's a glass half empty kind of guy. And then they get in the car and they start driving around and his friends are too drunk to drive, that kind of thing. Here's where this railroad tracks is here, where they hop onto the tracks and start actually driving around on the tracks, if you remember that scene. So, any more questions for now? Good question. Yeah, Orson Welles actually went to school here as a boy. There's a private school here in town, there was at the time, called the Todd School for Boys. And Orson Welles was a student there. The Opera House that we saw was the first place that he both acted in and directed in a movie. Or a play, rather, was here. So, yeah, Orson Welles is a great part of Woodstock's theatrical history. Really important. So right here, one more site really quick. Excellent question about Orson Welles. This is the Old Man Alley. If you remember, Phil meets this old man, kind of befriends him, and then ultimately, when he's starting to kind of really come into his own as a good guy, he tries to save the man's life, but he freezes to death here in the alley. That's the scene. So here's like the one kind of rough spot that they could find around here to do a scene like that. Otherwise, we've got just a super beautiful town. This block here is an interesting one. You can see it's all pretty unique construction, all pretty similar construction is what I'm trying to say. This was a block that had burned down during the Chicago fire. So if you remember Chicago fire, 1871, funny story about that is that Woodstock and several other communities all had fires that same night as the Chicago fire. Some say it was a meteor shower that actually dropped meteors on a variety of different communities. But most of them had pretty devastating fires the same night as Chicago because all of the firefighters were getting on the trains and getting on their horses and running into Chicago to help fight the really big fire in Chicago, and nobody was left back home to fight the fires back home. So it's a funny story back at the railroad tracks there. of the community of Harvard, which is, if you take that northwest line on Metra, you'll see Harvard's the end of the line that they identify the train by. The Harvard firefighters all got on the train, and they came right through Woodstock, which was on fire, and they passed the Woodstock fire and went straight, kept on going into Chicago instead of getting off and helping here in Woodstock. So, a little bit of a community rivalry still, I think, today, because they just let us burn. But funny story. Here's what we're back to what I was mentioning earlier, which is Ned's Corner. I think everybody says that's their favorite part of the movie. If you come this way, if you want to kind of back up, look back at me. This is the scene you would have seen in the movie. Is when Phil kind of comes around the corner, the homeless guy's there, he kind of passes change, and then his friend Ned comes from right over there and says hi, and they talk all about in high school together and how he used to date his sister Mary Pat, and he did the whistling belly button trick. It's a hilarious scene. What I've been told is that the directors didn't really have that heavily scripted. They really just wanted them to meet. They had a few points they wanted to make sure they covered, but they just let Bill Murray and Stephen Tobolowsky just do their thing as comedians and let them just run loose with the comedy, and most of that is ad-libbed, what they did. And then, of course, we come to the scene that I mentioned. Right at the end of that scene is where Bill Murray steps off the curb right here into the puddle. What I was told is that the puddle actually was refilled every day because that film wasn't filmed over and over again on the same day. They did it in multiple days. So each time they had to do that scene, they would pull those bricks out again and fill it full of water again to step in. But then they would refill it so that it was safe for people to walk by. So, really fun scene there.
The bowling alley still open?
Yeah, the bowling alley is still open. It's called Wayne's Lanes. And, it's a great place to go visit. Great place to see, see a little bit of the movie history, a little bit of the, scenes. The interior bar scene where he's talking to his friends was filmed in there, but then also the exterior scene where he came out and was talking to the cars about who was going to drive and all that, and they hopped in the car and started driving. All that was done right there. I want to point out here again, the real Woodstock is kind of the brand that we like to think of ourselves as just a real, genuine community. We have, real industry, real entertainment, real community feel. So you'll see that brand on a lot of things, including the visitor center. But these kiosks are out there available for you. They'll show you a little bit of the schedule of events for the year. We rotate this through as new events come up, of course. But then you also have a good downtown visitor guide with maps. Most of the downtown businesses will have a guide like this that you can take home with you. You can pick it up and you can go see the rest of downtown. But of course, the visitor center has that as well. So when you come to Woodstock, just stop in one of the downtown stores and grab one of these visitor guides, and you're good to go. I'll let me show you really quick the other side. Real Woodstock as well. This one has the kind of the monthly festival events. We do another one of these posters every month that shows what some of the more recent events are. So we've got the Woodstock Folk Festival. I know the one that was in July, just a few weeks ago. I know the poster in August that we're just about to put out focuses on the Woodstock Mozart Festival. We've been doing that Mozart Festival for over 20 years. So we're excited to be hosting music, and it's just part of what we do here in Woodstock. So do you have another question?
Are there any P&Gs near the square for a weekend visit?
Yes, yeah. In fact, one is the most famous one that you'll recognize from the movie. Probably a little hard to zoom in on that, but it was known as the Cherry Street Inn during the movie, but it's called the Royal Victorian Manor. And that one is not right here on the square, but it's about 2 blocks away. And then about 1 block away, there's another one called the Bundling Board Inn. So yeah, 2 really good B&Bs really close to the square. Excellent question. So let's head up here just a little bit. You can see some more of the farmers market here. Again, every Tuesday and Saturday, farmers market. It's a great attraction here for Woodstock. This is now the Chase Bank, but back during the movie, this was the bank where he had there's a funny scene where armored car pulls up right here in front of the bank, and he's timed it so well that he can just walk up and steal the bag of money without being seen by anybody. So that was the scene right here in front of the bank. Also right here in the street right in front is where after he kind of gets on his kick of doing good for the community rather than being despondent, this is where he changes the tires for the old ladies. So these two old ladies are in the car, and he comes up and jacks up their tire. Even before they know that they've broken down, he's already ready to change their tire, that kind of stuff. That was right here as well. So we're coming up on one of our most significant landmarks for the square. This is the old courthouse and the sheriff's house. So these two buildings together, both National Register of Historic Properties sites. And the courthouse was built in 1857, which makes it, I believe, the 5th oldest courthouse that's still up and running in Illinois. We have about 40 courthouses like this on the National Register of Historic Places here in Illinois, but this is one of the oldest ones. It's one of the only ones that's pre-Civil War, 1957 or 1857 courthouse here. And of course, this was the center of McHenry County. The whole point of establishing Woodstock was to be the new county seat, so the new courthouse was part of that. The county did operate here until the 70s, and then ever since then it was in private hands for a long time. Now the city has it, but it's an art center. It's a great place to come and enjoy art. We have a lot of music and festival music kind of stuff that I've described, but this is a good place for visual arts. The McHenry County Northwest Area Arts Council operates the Courthouse Art Center here. So great place to come visit. And in the basement, of course, on the ground floor rather, is the Public House Restaurant, which is an excellent dining restaurant, outdoor patio space. Right next door is the old sheriff's house. That one is currently under renovation. All the windows you see in there are brand new, but that one was built in 1887. It was both the jail for the county as well as the residence of the jailer and his family. So they lived kind of in the front, both on the front and back, both on the upper floor and the lower floor. You kind of see the break in the building there. The back there is all the jail cells, both on the second floor and the third floor. And the lower floor was more storage, some jail as well in the old days. Currently, like I said, we're working on it, so there's no tenant in there yet right now. But there has been restaurants and other uses in the past. What makes this one really significant is, for the National Register of Historic Places, this was the site of the incarceration of a gentleman named Eugene Debs. Many of you here in Chicagoland will be familiar with the Pullman area that was recently listed as a National Historic Park on the south end of Chicago. That Pullman area has strong ties to this Eugene Debs. He was one of the labor organizers that made that labor strike happen. And after he was arrested, he was brought here to Woodstock and stayed in this building for quite a while. Became good friends with the jailer. The jailer treated him more like house arrest, where he had kind of a free roam of the square, but he did have to stay in kind of under the guard of the jailer, but he really wasn't, as confined as you might think. Another question.
Where is the best place to see old photos of Woodstock, and how is the cartoonist Chester Gould associated with Woodstock?
Good question about Chester Gould. There's a lot of good old photographs of Woodstock, like we mentioned. The McHenry County Historical Society has a great Facebook page with a lot of good old photos. We've got quite a few on the city as well. Every Thursday, I try to put out on the Facebook page called Woodstock Square. That's just a great Facebook page that features the square. We do a Throwback Thursday picture here on the square, where I'll try to take one of those old historic photos and compare it to a photo from the same angle today. And we'll put those up most Thursdays. So that's a great place to go look. It's just the Woodstock Square Facebook page. You can see a lot of old historic photos of Woodstock. The second question you had was about Chester Gould. Many will notice that name as the cartoonist for many, many years of the Dick Tracy comic strips. Dick Tracy ran in the Chicago Tribune primarily all the way from the I think late 30s even, all the way, through the 70s and 80s. So it was a long running comic strip. And the artist, Chester Gould, actually lived here in Woodstock. So he called Woodstock home. Where the Starbucks is right over there, he actually had his office right there on the square. He owned a couple other buildings as well. But he did most of his actual work either here at his studio here in Woodstock, or he had an office in downtown Chicago in the Tribune building there as well. And so he would commute in to the office sometimes or work out here when he needed to. So, but that was that whole Chester Gould story is a really fascinating element of Woodstock history as well. We have Dick Tracy Days. We had them this summer on July 2nd. We had one of our police officers that had a nice, good chiseled jaw. He dressed up as Dick Tracy. We had a couple of the villains in costume as well. And we were able to celebrate his legacy, Chester Gould's legacy here in Woodstock as well. And that was a fundraiser for this building as well, which is under renovation currently. But yeah, the Woodstock Square is a really fascinating historic place, and it's made more fun by some characters like the Groundhog Day movie and the people associated with that, with Chester Gould, with Orson Welles, of course, who performed here in the Opera House, as I mentioned. Paul Newman also had his early acting debut here on the Woodstock stage. Another fun historic building is the one you see there through the gap. That's the old Central School. It was built in 1906 as one of the early elementary schools for Woodstock. But the school now has been converted into City Hall for Woodstock. And I have my office there. So if you come to Woodstock, you can come see me over at the Central School. So, any other questions for now? Let's head into the square and enjoy the atmosphere a little bit. Again, we have farmers market going on. We've got fresh flowers for sale. People out enjoying the music. All those things to the face. You're gonna make me go. All right. These old squares like this, of course, you've got your mandatory Civil War memorial. Yeah, this is a soldiers' memorial for all the communities in McHenry County, because we are the county seat of McHenry County. If you're not familiar with, if you're looking from out of state perhaps and seeing this, McHenry County is just northwest of Chicago. It's part of the Chicago metro area. A county of about 300,000, but we're a community of about 25 right here in the center of the county. In fact, when it was first founded, Woodstock was called Centerville, because we were right in the center of everything. But hopefully you've seen that Woodstock has a fun, airy vibe, a fun community feel to it. We like to keep things interesting. Music, we've got a lot of fun independent shops. Ethereal Chocolates down in the corner there's a great one. They make wonderful, delicious chocolate stuff, all the way from the bean all the way to the finished product, right here on the square. Opera House is fantastic. Fun story right next door, that little bit more modern building you see next door. That's actually what's called the Stage Left Cafe. It's an addition that made onto the Opera House. The primary reason they had it built was because they didn't have good accessible restrooms for the actual performance level on the second floor. People had to come all the way back downstairs, and it was a fairly old building, so fairly small restrooms. So they built that primarily to get restrooms, but then what it allowed them to do was build a much bigger backstage, freight elevator, all of that, plus on the ground floor we have the Stage Left Cafe, which, as I mentioned, is a good place to come just enjoy some live jazz music, all that. So, again, thank you for visiting with us in Woodstock today. Really appreciate your attendance, and we'd love to see you here in Woodstock soon.